Now, the US President Joe Biden addressed Americans last night where he said he would ask US Congress for billions of dollars. How much, Tom?
$100 billion. Sounds like one of those numbers that you'd hear in Austin Powers and those silly movies where they sort of make up unimaginable amounts of money, but $100 billion. Yeah,
it's about 87 million.
Billion
pounds, isn't it? Yes.
The pound is still just worth more than the dollar, despite the last few years we've had.
Just about. But that money is going to go to Israel and Ukraine to buy weapons and send humanitarian aid to both of those countries.
Well, we're joined now by our reporter Charlie Peters, live from Tel Aviv. And Charlie, we hear that you've just returned from an Israeli Defence Force conference. What did they say?
Well, one of the serious questions put to the IDF by journalists gathering this morning was about aid crossing into the Gaza Strip. We have heard so much, of course, since this conflict began, back and forth discussions about whether Israel and Egypt will maintain that partial blockade or whether or not they will allow aid in. 2 days ago, we reported that Benjamin Netanyahu had agreed to allow aid to enter, but since then, there has been no movement on the Rafah crossing. And in the last half hour, an IDF spokesman said that that situation was still to be determined. Yesterday, Rishi Sunak thanked the Prime Minister of Israel for agreeing to allow aid in, but for all the talk, there has been no movement. We've seen dozens of trucks gathering on the Egyptian side as reported damage to the roads leading into the Rafah crossing have still yet to be dealt with. There's been shelling in that area on top of airstrikes in the region as well. So a very significant moment for whether or not aid can enter, because of course the IDF has asked the best part of 1 million people to flee from the north to the south, and they've also asked foreign nationals to gather in the south, the US and the UK both expecting their people to be allowed to exit from that Rafah crossing into Egypt. It's highly unlikely that any Palestinians will exit because that is a red line for Egypt and Jordan and indeed other Arab powers here. They don't want to see Palestinians leave the Gaza Strip because they think that once they're out, they won't be allowed to go back in. But the IDF saying that great efforts are being made to ensure that foreign nationals at least can leave the Gaza Strip. We await further updates.
And Charlie, you have been at that conference this morning of the IDF. Now, of course, they're not going to be sharing their operational plans with the press, but how likely do you think, what sense do you get of a ground offensive by Israel? We've been talking about it for about 8 days now, haven't we? The troops gathering on the border there, but how likely do you think there will be that ground offensive, and how would that take place?
I think it is highly likely now. Yesterday we had statements from Yoav Gallant, the defence minister, telling troops gathering in that convoy on the border that they can see Gaza from afar, but soon they will see it from the inside, adding that the order will come. Those kind of statements you really can't row back from in a time of war. So it feels highly likely that that invasion is going to come. Tonight is Friday night, of course, it'll be Shabbat night, and tomorrow the Jewish holiday, so highly unlikely to see movements in the next 24 hours. But every moment they get to gather and prepare for that invasion is a benefit to the Israelis as they can prepare for the sustainment and the shaping part of a ground invasion. More bombardments required, more logistical supplies required, and also the preparation and practice for troops on the ground. But at the same time, this is a benefit to Hamas at the same time, because they are developing their defences inside that most densely populated part of the world, some 500 kilometres of tunnels underground. If it is an invasion, it will be slow and deliberate because there will be obstacles and suicide bombers and booby traps and bombs littered all over the streets of North Gaza. There are also significant numbers of civilians remaining in North Gaza who will almost certainly be used as human shields by the terrorists remaining there. The fighting that we will see there will be extremely bloody, and IDF soldiers I've spoken to expect to be engaged in hand-to-hand combat, fighting door-to-door, house-to-house. So a extremely precarious and long war on the horizon.
Really, really stark reporting there, Charlie Peters. Of course, we know that urban warfare is amongst the most dangerous form of warfare, and it appears to be getting ever closer still. Charlie Peters, live from Tel Aviv. We thank you for your reporting.